Hello students, I hope you had a nice weekend. Today we are going to be learning about rational numbers and decimals. And if you look on your screen, you'll see that we kind of have a new setup for our notes. And this is what I'm going to be using for this month to show you the lessons that we're going to need to learn. And in this column, you're going to have definitions that you need to copy down. And then on this column is where we're going to be doing our notes. And I have a new tablet, so I'm going to be able to write on the screen. I'll show you what I mean. Now I'm going to be able to do this. See, I can write. Okay, so now we should be able to move forward and keep going. All right, so for today, your learning target is I can change any fraction into a decimal and recognize rational numbers. Now, I know that you've seen fractions before, and I know that you've seen decimals before, but we're going to really talk about them today and make sure that you totally understand them. All right, so today, let's first go over these definitions, and you need to copy these definitions down on your sidebar. So a rational number is any number that can be written as a fraction. Any number at all that can be written as a fraction. All right, so here on this side are some examples of rational numbers. So 2/3 is 2/3. Can that be written as a fraction? Well, this is a fraction, so yes, this is a fraction. And before we move on, you may want to get like a yellow highlighter or a green highlighter or something like that, because you're going to tell me whether or not these numbers here are indeed rational numbers or if they are irrational numbers. So you may want to get a highlighter to highlight the ones that turn out to be rational. So go ahead and pause the video now if you want to go get a highlighter. All right, and then let's continue and go ahead and look at 2/3 one more time. So we're looking for rational numbers, a number that can be written as a fraction. Can 2/3 be written as a fraction? Well, it is a fraction, so yes, indeed, it can. You can either highlight this, or you can write yes, and I'm going to write that here. I'm still trying to learn how to use this, so bear with me a little bit. All right, and then 4. What about 4? Do you think that's a rational number? Can it be written as a fraction? Yes, it can. Remember, any number can be expressed as a fraction just by writing the number over 1. So 4 over 1 is the same thing as 4, and so yes, it can be written as a fraction. And then what about 100? The same thing applies for 100. If you can write the number on top of 1 and put it in the fraction form, and this too can be written as a fraction. And so yes, it is a rational number. And then now I want you to think about -5. Is -5 a rational number? Look at the definition and think if you can apply a -5. Can you turn that into a fraction? Think about it and go ahead and write your answer here. And if you said yes, you are actually correct. -5 can be written as a fraction. It's the same exact way, -5 over 1. You just change this into a fraction. You don't have to worry about the negative there at all. Now let's look at this one, -3/4. Can this be expressed as a fraction? Trick question, it already is expressed as a fraction, so this is already a rational number. Now, this one is not a fraction or a whole number. This is a decimal. What do you think about decimals? Can this be expressed as a fraction? Well, if you're not sure, you can read this number to yourself out loud, or it'll be expressed as 1/10. So you can write it as 1 over 10, because this 0.1 is the same as 1/10, 1/10. And we're going to learn about how to change decimals into fractions and so on and so forth in just a little bit. But if you read this as 1/10, you automatically can know that it is a fraction. So yes, it is a rational number. Yes. Now, I'd like you to answer this question on your own. We're not going to go over it on the video. Do you think a mixed number is a rational number? Explain. Write yes or no, and then tell me why you think that a mixed number is a rational number. And in case you forget what a mixed number is, I'll give you an example of one here. That'd be something like 3 and 1/3. This is a mixed number. So do you think that a mixed number is a rational number? Explain yes or no. Pause the video while you write that in so then we can move on. All right, so now that you've written that down, let's look at fractions. And the definition of a fraction, the way that I think about it, is pieces of a whole number written as parts over whole. And we'll go into that in a little bit. So let's look at this. And we commonly see shapes associated with fractions just so we can see how the parts of the whole are broken apart. So let's look. This whole circle right here represents one whole. So the circle represents 1, and I'm going to write that right here that it represents 1. Whoops, a 1. And then how many pieces are in this circle? Well, we can count. There's 1, 2, 3 pieces in the circle. So according to my definition, it's pieces of a whole number written as parts over whole. Parts over whole. And I wrote that again down here, parts shaded over the total parts. So how many parts are shaded in this circle? Well, the shaded ones are the red ones, so there's 1, 2. Okay, so we have 2 parts shaded over, how many pieces are there total? 1, 2, 3. Over 3 total pieces. So parts shaded over the total parts, 2/3 or 2 over 3, is how you would represent this shape as a fraction. Go ahead, I drew a circle for you here. Go ahead and express the fraction 4/5 in your circle, in this circle here. You're going to need to draw 5 pieces because there are 5 parts in the whole, and you'll need to shade 4 of them in because 4 of the parts are shaded. That's what the fraction means, 4 out of 5 or 4/5. So go ahead and pause the video now while you do that. Now that you know a little bit more about fractions, I'd like you to give me an example of a fraction right here. Just write any number that you think is a fraction and write it right here for me. And then I want you to look at that fraction that you just wrote and see if you notice that there are 2 different numbers. There's one on the top and one on the bottom. It's always how fractions are. There's always a number on the top and there's always a number on the bottom. Well, instead of just saying the number on the top and the number on the bottom, we have specific names for those numbers. So the numerator right here is the number on the top of the fraction parts. So my numerator for 2/3 is 2. And then my numerator for 4/5 is 4. So it's the parts shaded, or the pieces of the fraction are going to be your numerator. And then the number that's on the bottom is the denominator. And denominators right here, it's the number in the bottom of the fraction, and it's the total number of parts that the whole is broken into. So for 2/3, the denominator is 3. And for 4/5, the denominator is 5. Now, if you have trouble remembering numerator and denominator, I always think D is the same as, or it starts with the same letter as down. So I'll write down for you. Sorry, my writing is sloppy. I'm still getting used to this pen. So numerator is on the top, denominator is down. So if you can't remember, and you remember at least the denominator is down, it's on the bottom, then you can know the numerator is on the top. All right, so go ahead and pause the video if you need to copy down these definitions. If not, we're going to move forward, and we're going to look at this fact right here, that all fractions can be expressed in decimal form, which is really awesome because sometimes we aren't able to use a fraction. Sometimes we have to use a decimal. So that's really helpful when we can change them back and forth from one to the other. So for now, we're just going to focus on how to change fractions into decimals, not how to change decimals into fractions. We'll do that in the next lesson. So for now, let's look at the steps. This is my how-to section. First, you're going to divide the numerator by the denominator. And we just learned what that means, which those words mean. The numerator is the top, denominator is the bottom. and we're going to solve through long division. And I know you all love long division. So we're going to have to use some long division to solve these problems. And then we need to continue solving until the remainder is 0 for these problems. So let's go ahead and look at this fraction right here, 5/16. And the directions say to write it in decimal form. So I went ahead and added a division problem right here. And notice that my numerator is inside my house. The numerator goes inside the box. This is the most common mistake that people make when they are changing fractions into decimals. They accidentally put the denominator inside the house. We don't want that. We want the denominator on the outside of the house. So 16 goes on the outside, 5 goes on the inside. Write your division bar. And then 16 goes into 5 0 times. So I wrote a 0 here. 0 times 16 is 0, and you can carry that down. Or you can remember that you're going to need to add a decimal here and here, and then add another 0 right here to the end of the in the tenths place of the 5. So we have 16 going into 50. Well, we can do that. 16 goes into 50 how many times? 3 times. So 3 times 16 is 48. You're going to subtract those two numbers. 50 take away 48 is 2. Well, 16 does not go into 2. That's good. So we need to add another 0. Let me actually delete this guy. We need to add another 0 to the end of our dividend right here. And then once we add that 0, let me add it right now, we can bring it down. Oops, that's supposed to be an arrow. Bring it down right here, and now we have 20. Can 16 go into 20? Yes, it can. 16 goes into 20 one time, so we write that 1 above the same 0 that we added, a 1. 1 times 16 is 16. If you're super good at this, you can go ahead and finish this now. If not, I'll finish it for you in a little bit. Go ahead and see if you can figure out what 20 take away 16 is. If you find out that it's 4, you're correct, and I'm running out of room, I'm sorry. So I have to bring down another 0 all the way down here. 16 goes into 40, that's going to be 2 times. 2 times 16 is 32. I'm definitely running out of room now. 32, this is my last step. 40 take away 32 is 8. I'm going to kind of go on an angle over here. 16 does not go into 8, so I need to add yet another 0 to bring down over here. 16 goes into 80. Yes, it does. I believe it goes in 5 times. Yes, it goes in 5 times evenly. 5 times 16 is 80. 80 take away 80 is 0. And remember, in my directions, I said that we have to continue solving until the remainder is 0. Well, we have a remainder of 0, so now we officially have our answer. So 5/16 in decimal form is 0.3125. When you're doing your homework and your practice, you need to put your decimal point in. You will not get the answer right if you do not put your decimal in there. All right, so down below, right here, we have 5 practice problems that you need to complete on your notes for tonight. You can solve them on the back of this paper, or if there's extra room down here, you can solve them down here. And see if you can change each one of these into decimal form. That's all you need to do, change them into decimal form. And then you'll need to show me these notes in class to receive full credit. Please let me know if you have any questions, and I will see you all in class very soon.